Dear friends, today we are going to discuss about electrical impulses of conduction system of heart. So, how electrical impulses actually generated, how the neural information is transferred from one cell to another cell, and how it is reaches to myocardial layer, and then what is happening in the heart, and how the information is transferred from SC node to AV node to bundle of his to left, right bundle of his, and then finally it reaches to Purkinje fiber, and how the heart is contracting, ejecting the blood from from ventricle and atria. Okay, so how the electrical impulses actually generated, we are going to discuss it. So it is passes the information from one node to another node to bundle of his to Purkinje fiber. How the Purkinje fiber is contracting. It is all because of the electrical impulses. The electrical impulses actually started the spike discharge, or the electrical impulses, it will reach us depolarization plus 30 millivolt, and then it is pass the information from one region to another region, and finally it will charge entire neuron and pass the information. In this way it will pass the information. So how neurons are communicating? Neurons are communicating through through action potential by it is created by because of electrical signal. So a single neuron is communicated by means of electrical impulses called action potential. The electrical impulses, it is based on the uh, inside and outside of the cell, how it is getting positive and negative charge. Because of this positive and negative charge, it passes the information from one neuron to another neuron, and finally it reaches to a particular region and make it as a grand success function. So electrical impulses, it see, already I told you, electrical impulses, it has to travel from one part of neuron to another part of neuron. Here we are going to discuss about how the electrical impulses influence to increase the heart function. So the because of myocardial layer, the electrical impulses or action potential is reserved by the myocardial layer. Then myocardial, from myocardial layer to, it is passed to sinoatrial node and atrioventricular node. So it is getting ready to start action potential or depolarization. So the impulses are slowed down for 120 milliseconds. Why this slowdowning of 120 millisecond is, it will create chance of refilling both left and right ventricle, so that it require a minimum time to refill maximum, so that the SA node, it will get AV node, it will get slowed down by 120 seconds. These 120 milliseconds, it create chance to refill maximum, and then bundle of his divided into left and right, and finally it reaches to Purkinje fiber. So in this way the heart is working different phases of heart. So once if you touch in one portion of neuron, or it will receive the information from one portion, immediately it will pass the information through myelinated sheath, and finally it reaches to axon of neuron. See, this is head portion. It receives the information and pass the information one sheath to another, and finally reaches to a axonal portion. In this way, the neuron is communicating from one region to another region. Finally, it pass the information to another neuron. It will collect together, and it will travel again. So this is called electrical pulses of heart. So by your myocardial layer is responsible to receive the action potential from nearby neuron, and then it passes the information or electrical impulses or depolarization to the SC node, AV node, and a bundle of his Purkinje fiber, and how it is contracting based on the brain command. Okay, so the entire process we used to call it as electrical impulses of heart. So the action potential is nothing but a rapid rise of or membrane potential across a cellular membrane with the characteristic of pattern. It is very simple. The rapid rise of uh, positive and negative charges within the cell and inside the cell and outside of the cell. It will wait sufficient current as to pass, then only it will respond the cell membrane. And if the current is not sufficient, then depolarization may not be possible, and there will be no fire in the cell membrane. Okay, so this is called the resting potential membrane. So during rest there is no activation here, and once the electric impulse trigger, it will rise to peak, and it is called depolarization. So the resting outside cell is more no sodium, and resting the potassium may be higher in the inside. It has to interchange, and sodium ion gate has to open, potassium ion gate has to open. Then only the depolarization may be possible. The action potential is nothing. The action potential that are rapid change in the membrane that occur when neuron is firing. So during action potential, the firing is actually started, and it create the action potential from one place to another place. This will be possible, and it will occur three main stages. One is depolarization. Depolarization is nothing but from resting potential, it has to increase its firing action, finally reaches to plus 30, and then pass the information from one part of neuron to another part of neuron. After depolarization, there should be a repolarization. For depolarization, sodium is responsible. Repolarization, potassium has to initiate the process. And sometimes there is a uh, hyperpolarization. Hyperpolarization is nothing but the action potential. It will go beyond the resting potential, so that it has two conditions: the absolutely refractory period and relative refractory period. Okay, before that, how the ion concentration is outside and inside during resting. So this is cell membrane. The potassium is outside is very less when, but inside the cell is higher. Okay, during rest. At the same time, during rest, the sodium is higher concentration on the outside of the cell, and very poor, very low condition inside. So this cannot be create action potential or depolarization. So for creating action potential, we need some trigger from your brain, so that it will wait for the firing action. So before firing action, we used to call it as a resting potential membrane process. So in the semi-permeable process, your potassium rush out, and it makes the electrical charges inside and outside. It is make much difference. Then only the action potential can be generated. So potassium can pass through to equalize its concentration. So it is try to manage inside and outside. The potassium level should be moderate, then only the action potential can be generated. So because of this reason, potassium has to rush outside and make your cell membrane um, initiate of electrical impulses, but to reach depolarization plus 30 millivolt. Okay, in this resting potential, there is no activation, and the plus and minus, there is no change. So the current level will be minus 70 microvolt, so that there is no action potential here. So inside and outside cell there is no much spike rate, so there is no possible of passing the information from one place to another place. So this is resting condition, resting potential membrane. The sodium remain outside is higher concentration. Potassium is inside the higher concentration. So once the action potential is started, then the negative current is changing. Okay, sodium rush outside, potassium rush inside, so that depolarization can be started. It will wait for plus 30 millivolt to contract or relax your heart. This is called depolarization. The action potential membrane allows sodium rush into or rush inside, and the inside cell rapidly becomes more positive than outside, and the depolarization travel down oxygen leading edge of the action potential. So this is called depolarization. Depolarization is nothing but from minus 70 millivolt to it has to carry out the semi-permeable process, and action potential has to reach plus 30 microvolt. Then the action potential may be started, depolarization may be started. Because of this reason, the electrical charges uh, uh, may be changed. Because of this change, the action I mean information passes from one neuron to within the neuron from head to towards the axonal portion. So repolation after reaching peak of plus 30, it has to come down, because the single spike, it consists of depolarization and repolarization. So repolarization is nothing but the potassium rush after depolarization, potassium moves out, restoring inside to negative voltage. The potassium rush out and make the cellular activity balanced. So balanced potassium activity, it create repolarization again it will go down for rest condition. So in this stage, this is called a repolarization. Repolarization is nothing but potassium is try to um, uh, normalize inside and outside cell electrical impulses level. That is called repolarization. So rapid repolarization or depolarization, we used to call it as a spike discharge of the cell. So once spike discharge cell is the charge is started, then there is a possible of repolarization. So after repolarization, sometime there is a chance of uh, hyperpolarization. Hyperpolarization is nothing but the resting potential membrane minus 70, it goes beyond its level. Those level we used to call it as a hyperpolarization. Hyperpolarization, there is no possible of immediate action potential. So it is a complete resting condition. So neuron cannot, in this stage, neuron cannot produce new action potential immediately, already we discussed. This is called a refractory period. A refractory period means it's completely resting condition. Okay, in this condition, so resting hyperpolarization, there is no possible of immediate action potential. It has to take some rest and wait for another command from brain. So in the refractory period, it is nothing but the period during which second stimulus failed to evoke response. This means there is no chances of initiating the action potential or depolarization or repolarization. Suppose that before depolarization, if there is no chance of creating depolarization, that is called absolutely refractory period. After depolarization, again there is no work of action potential, that is called a relative refractory period. So really absolutely refractory period, it is denoted that sodium is very poor in this condition, so that there is no chances of one more depolarization. Okay, then second condition is after depolarization, the potassium level is very low, so that there is a very less chance of again increasing a depolarization. So, refractory period, there is two absolutely and a relative refractory period. In this condition, there is no chances of again one more action potential from resting condition. Okay, so in this way, the heart is receiving the impulses from myocardial layer, and the SA node is getting charged the both atria, and passes the information SA node and bundle of his and left to right bundle, and then pass the information to Purkinje fiber, and Purkinje fiber is responsible to contracting your left and right ventricle. In this way, it is governing the function of conduction system of heart. So the electrical, because of the electrical impulses only, cardiac cycle has happen. So without electrical impulses, without action potential, without depolarization, repolarization, there is no possible of contracting, relaxing of your heart. Thank you.